Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. In this video, we are going to build a very simple employee management system in Golang using Struct method. And in this building, we are going to cover adding a new employee, updating the employee details, and calculating salaries and displaying organized reports. Let's jump into the full code. So just create our main file main.go, initialize our package model. Good. Now let's first create our struct for the employee. So we bring in our employee struct. Okay, so we will say every employee has an ID which will be an integer, and every employee has a name which is a string. Good. And a position which is also a string. Then every employee also has a salary. Okay, salary. Okay, so and that is going to be a float. Okay, so let's say float 64. That's fine. Alright, so we are going to also have a struct for the whole management system as well. So we will have a struct for the whole management system. We will call it the employee management system. Okay, good. Yeah, so and we will say that will have all the employees, right? And that is going to be a slice. Okay, then we say we will initiate it as a slice for the employee struct, so it is going to come from here. Okay, so we will add the struct employee to it. Good, we are good to go. Now let's begin with our main function. Great. Then we will first initialize our system, right? And you declare a variable called emx, and we will say that it is coming from the employee management system struct. So we will instantiate it over here. Good. And we'll bring our curly braces. So we will bring our EMS variable that we have declared, and we will create a function. We will give our function name add employee. So this will be the function that will handle that adding of employee. So inside this function, you will say that this function will have a parameter, an input parameter, and that input parameter is going to be the employee struct that we have created over here. It's going to have this employee struct. Good. So inside it, we will say that it will take the employee struct, and the employee struct has ID, name, position, and salary. So we will say the employee we are adding has an ID of 1, and the name of that employee is going to be a string, so don't forget your quotations. So let's say Mark Smith. Okay, good. Then we bring our comma, then we will say that the position for that employee, which is also a string, and we will say that Mark is a software engineer. Alright, good. We bring our comma. Then lastly, we will say the salary for Mark, which is a float, we will say that his salary is 60,000. Okay, good. Now we have it over here. Okay, good. Now we have it simplified. So now, because we've not yet created our function add employee, that's why we are seeing an error here. So we will have to create that function, then we proceed. But before then, let's add another employee. Let's add another employee to our employee list. So we will again create another one and say that the second employee that we are going to add, he has an ID of 2 and the name is Jane White, and we will say that his position is project manager. Let's give her a salary of 80,000. Good. Now we are still configuring our main function, and after adding them, you display all of them. So we will display the employees over here. Good. Now before we continue to create the function for displaying the employees, let's handle our add employee function, then we will continue from there. So let's come over here and create our function for adding the employee. Good. Then let's take it from there. So in our employee add employee function, we said that it is taking the employee parameter. So we say that it is taking the employee parameter, and that parameter is actually from the employee struct. That is what we have it over here. Good. Then we will bring it over here. It's an employee struct. Great. Now then we will bind it to the employee management system. We will bind it to the employee management system. Good. And we will say that we use the EMS representation for it. Good. Then we will bring the employee management system struct over here. Now because we are adding employee to the employee management system struct, we have to actually modify it and add it to that. So because of that, we have to use the pointer receiver. So we'll bring our pointer over here. Good. Then inside our function, we will bring in our representation, the EMS, then we will do dot. Then because in our employee management system struct, it has the employees instance over here, which is coming from the employee struct. Good. So we will bring our employees over here, so meaning that it's coming from the employee management system. Good. Then that is what we are adding. Then we will say that is going to be equal to, then we will append our new employee that we are adding, and we are going to append it into that employees in the employee management system. So that is going to be the EMS dot employees. Then you bring a comma, then we will now add the parameter that we are bringing in over here. Good. Now we now bring it over here because that is what we are adding into the employee management system struct. Good. So we bring it over here. Great. Good. Now we have added that. So after adding it, let's print a message that tells us that we have actually added it. So let's bring our format package over here. Then let's do a print line. Added new employee. Added new employee. Employee. And that employee's name is employee dot name. Good. Then we will have this message telling us that the addition has been successful. Now in our main function, we should see the error taken away. Yeah. Now in our main function, let's continue with displaying the employee. Okay, so in our display employee, we will have to create another function to handle that. So we will say ems dot, and that function we will say is called list employees. List employee. And because that is listing the employee, we are not modifying anything, it's just displaying all the employees. So inside it, it is not taking any parameter. Great. So we have to create that function for the error to go. Now let's create our function to handle that, our list employees. Good. And now we will bind it to the employee management system because we are displaying all the employees in the management system. So we will bind it to that. We use the EMS representation. Good. And now we bind it to that. Because we are not modifying the content of it, we will not bring the pointer, we will not use the pointer receiver. So inside it, we will just print, we will just bring our format package and we use the print line, and we will print, we will say that this is the list of the employees. So employee list. Good. And now we will then go ahead, and list all of them. So we will say that we will bring our for loop, and we will have our index, then we will bring in we will declare a variable called emp, and we will say that that is going to be the range of all the employees in the employee management system. So the EMS representation that we brought, then we will do dot the employees. Great. Then inside our loop, we will display the emp dot display. So we'll have to let a function handle all of that. So we will say the display function. Good. Now we are only using the emp, so that is why we are having an error with the index. But because we are not using the index in that function, we can just use underscore and that will be taken away. Great. And because we have not created our display function, that's why we are having the error. You should get it. Now, after displaying all of them, we will now, to make it more flexible and understandable on the console, we will just bring a line to separate that. So let's bring in our line. Okay. And let's say, okay. Okay, good. Now we will have to create our display function to handle the list of the employees. You get it? Good. So because the employees are all here, okay, but because the employee management system is actually an instance of the employee struct, so we have to now go inside the employee struct and display all of them inside our display function that we are going to create. So in the for loop, we will take all the employee one by one and we will display their details. As simple as that. So let's go ahead and create our function, the display function. Okay, over here. So we have our display function over here. Now in our display function, we are going to bind it to this employee struct because we are getting the details of all the employees. So we have to get their name, their ID, their position, their salary. So we will bind it to that employee struct. So we have it here and we will use the E representation. Good. Of the employee struct. Now inside our function, we will now print all of them. All of them. Now we will bring in our format package and we will do printf, and inside our function, our print method. So we will print all of them. Cut. We are printing all of them in the display function. Good. Now we will print all of them. We bring our format package, then we will bring our print. Then we will display all of them. We bring our format package, then the print line. Then inside it, we will say the ID. The ID will be the E dot ID. Then the name of the employee to will be E dot the name. Good. Then we will have our position for the employee also as E dot position. Then lastly, we have the salary for the employee, which is going to be the salary. Good. Then that will be E dot salary. Good. So this will print all the and display all the employee. So in the for loop that we have over here, it will take all of them, every employee in the employee management system. It will take each one of them and it will pass them into the display function. And inside the display function, we are going to get the details of all of them. Great. Good. Now let's print it on the console to see how it looks like. So first we add all the employee and then we will display them. Good. Now let's see how it will look on the console. Go run main.go. Now we see it over here. We see we added a new employee, Mark Smith. Then we added another employee, Jane White. Then there's the employee list. So we have the name Mark Smith, the position is software engineer, and all that. But let's use the printf so that we can have all of them in a separate line to make it more readable, rather than having all of them in a single straight line. So let's use the printf from the format package. Good. So in our display function, instead we will use the printf, the format printf. So let's clean this so that we are able to see how that one will look like. So in our printf, we have our ID, and we are able to embed the values inside. So Go has this inbuilt keywords to use. So you use that, the D, then we will bring the slash n, which will be on a new line. Good. Then we will have our name also, and that will also be the S for the string, because our name is a string. Good. Then we will bring in our new line. Then we will have our position. Our position, which is also a string S. Good. Then we have our salary. Then we will print a salary also on a new line. So /n, \n. Then we'll bring our salary also. Good. And our salary is actually a float, and we will use the f slash on the new line. But because we want to print our salary in 2 decimal places, so we have to bring dot 2 in front of the f. Good, for 2 decimal places. Now, and let's add the $sign to indicate that the amounts are in dollars. Great. Are we together? So now we will pass all the values over here. Good. So we bring our comma. Then for the first value over here, which is the ID, which we brought the D over here, so that will be the E dot ID. Good. And for the second value was the name, so we will do E dot name. The third one was the position, we will do E dot position. And lastly, the salary, E dot salary. Good. Now let's print it to see how it now looks like. Okay. Awesome. Now we see it over here. Now we have it, all the details on a separate line. And I think this is more readable and it is good. Now let's continue. Now we've created our function for adding employee and for listing all the employees. Now let's go ahead and find an employee. So in our management system, in case we want to find a specific employee, now how do we do that? So you continue with that. So that will be find employee. Okay, we will find the employee and we will also update that employee. Great. We will find employee and update that employee. So if you are finding an employee and we want to modify the employee data, good. So that is what you are going to do next. So with that one, we will again bring in a new variable, we call it emp, and we will declare it to be an instance from the EMS, the EMS that we created here. So that is coming from the employee management system. So that specific, this new variable is actually coming from there, and we will create a new function. We will call it find employee. Find employee. And we are going to find the employee by ID. So to make our function more readable and maintainable, find employee. Good. Then we are going to pass the ID, find employee by ID. So we are going to pass the ID inside this function to get that specific employee and update that specific employee. Good. So it's going to take the parameter, let's say 1. So 1 means that we are going to find the employee with the ID 1, which is Mark Smith, and you update his data. Good. Now, because we have not created our function, we are having this error. We will create it soon. But before then, in case we are finding an employee who is not in our database or is not stored in our employee management system Struct, so let's handle that and proceed. So you will say that if the employee that we are going to find, in case the response that we get from the function is not nil. It's not nil. So it's not nil means that the response that we got from the function, we didn't have any error. So in the case we don't have any error, that is when we proceed to do what we wanted to do. Okay. And in the case where we will have an error, we will say that else. In our else block, we will handle the error and we will display the message that we had an error. So we will do our print line and say employee not found. Good. Now, if the employee is found, that is if the employee is not null, so it's not empty. So this is how we do that. It's not empty or it's not null. That means that the employee is found. Then what do you want to do? We want to update the employee salary and we want to also promote the employee. Okay, so we will have to create a separate function for that. So inside that we will say that the emp dot update. Okay, let's do it. We will update the salary. Good. So this is a update salary is a function that we use to update the salary of the employee. Good, because as for best practices, a function should be concise and perform a specific task. Good. So update a salary and we will pass the salary that we are updating it to. So let's say 65,000. Good. And after updating the salary, we want to also promote the employee to another position. So we will again do the emp dot promote and we will pass the new position that we are promoting the employee. So let's say we are promoting him to senior software developer, software engineer. I did it, software engineer. Okay, good. Now this is what we are going to do, and as we are promoting him to good. So as we are promoting him to a new position, we would want to also give him a salary raise. So the position comes with a salary raise. So the salary has actually been raised by, let's say, $10,000. So let's add that also as part of the parameters for the promote function. Good. Let's say 10,000. Good. So the function is actually taking two parameters. Good. The salary raise, which is the 10,000, and the new position, which is the senior software engineer. Good. Now let's go ahead and create our find employee function to handle that. So in here, we will create our function, the find employee by ID. Good. And in the find employee by ID, we are going to bind it to the employee management system. So the same way we did over here, we are going to bind it to the find employee by ID. Good. Yeah. But great. Then we will continue with the parameters. And the find employee by ID, as you indicated over here, it is taking the parameter of the ID. So we have to indicate it and specify also over here in the find employee by ID parameters that it is taking. And we say that it is taking ID, and that ID is an integer. Good. And you will specify it inside. Now inside it, we are going to loop through all the employees in the employee management system and find the one that has the ID that we are bringing in over here. So you will bring our for loop over here, and we will do the index. You use the I, then we will do the emp, which will be our variable, and we say that that is going to have the all the range of the employees. So we will bring our EMS over here, representation, and we are getting all the employees in the employee management system. Then inside our loop, we will do if the employee that we are finding has the ID of the ID we are bringing inside the function. So if the employee dot ID is equal to, so we use double equal sign for comparison, is equal to the ID that we are bringing in, then we have found that employee. Then we will continue to say that we should return that particular employee that we have found. So the employee that has the ID equal to the ID we are bringing, if we found that employee, we should return his information. So we will do the EMS dot employees, and we are going to say that we are bringing in his index. So we will actually use that to modify his data. So we will bring in the I. But because we are going to modify his data, we have to return the pointer of that employee to get the memory address so that we can actually modify it from the original state. So in doing that, we will return and we will bring the ampersand as the pointer that we are returning. Good. And because we are returning a value, which is the pointer of the employee that we have found, we have to indicate in our function that this function is actually returning something. So over here, we will do over here we will say that this function is actually returning the employee. But because we are returning the pointer of the employee, not just the direct employee that we have found, we are returning the pointer, we will have to indicate it with our asterisks over here. Now you see the error is gone. Good. And if in the loop we don't get him or the employee, we should actually return nil to handle that gracefully. Good. So now the find employee ID is done, and we are returning if we found the employee, we are returning him, we are returning the pointer of that employee. Good. So we see it in our main function. We see it in our main function here, the find employee by ID. It is actually returning the employee. So it is that employee that it will return. That is what we are going to pass into the update salary function. So we will use that returned employee and we will update his salary. to 65,000. So we have error here because that function is not yet created. So let's go ahead and create that function. Good. So over here, let's create our function for the update. So let's create our function over here to handle the update of the salary. Good. So in that function, we are going to bind it to the employee struct because we have the specific employee that we return from the find employee by ID. So we are going to bind it over here and modify that specific employee. So we will bind it good like this. Great. And because we are actually going to modify that specific employee's data, we have to make it a pointer. And we bring in the parameter that the update salary is taken. In our main function, we pass in that function is actually taking the salary amount. Good. So we will bring in that the function, the parameter is taken is called the new salary. Good. And that new salary, let's make it good camel case. That new salary is a float. And let's say that it is float 64. Okay, good. Now, inside our function, we will now check first whether the new salary that we want to update is actually greater than 0, so that if by mistake or intentionally we pass a negative value, we should handle that gracefully. So let's say that if the new salary that is coming in is actually greater than 0, then we should continue to perform our task. And if it is not greater than 0, that means that it is a negative number or equal to 0, then we should handle that one too in the else block and print a message that that value, that amount is actually invalid. So invalid salary amount. Okay, good. Now if it is greater than 0, we continue to perform our modification. We will bring in our E representation and we will specifically bring in the salary to update, and you say that it will be equal to the new salary that is coming in. Great. Like this. Then after updating that, let's print a message that we have actually successfully updated that. Good. So let's use our printf, and inside it we will say that updated salary for, so for the person, for the employee whose value is a string, so s, and to this amount. So begin our dollar, and we'll say that the amount is a float, so in 2 decimal places, 0.2f. Great. Then we will bring in our new line over here like this. Good. Then the value that comes first is the name before the salary. Exactly. So now we've handled that gracefully and we have updated the salary. Now, if we come into our main function, we also said that we are going to promote that particular employee that we found over here. We are going to promote that employee to the senior software engineer, and you raise his salary by 10,000. Good. Now, because we don't have that function to handle this promotion. We are having an error here, so let's go ahead and create our function for that. Good. So over here you create our function over here. Good. Now the promote function is actually taking the new position, so we will say new position, and that is a string. Then it is also taking the salary raise, so let's use the word raise for that, and we are saying that the salary is also a float. Good. And we are going to bind this function to the employee struct the same way we did for the new update the salary function. So we will also bind it to that as a pointer, so that we can actually modify the content of that employee. Good. That is it. Where from this error? Okay. I think we forgot to bring our percent over here. Good. Now it is gone. Now let's continue in the promote function. So in the promote function, we are going to take the specific employee's position and update his position. So we say the e position, and it is going to be equal to the new position that is coming in, and we will also update the salary. We say e dot update salary, and the update salary is going to handle, and the update salary takes the new salary parameter. But because over here in the promote function we got the salary raise, not the new salary, it was a salary raise. So inside the update salary, we will bring in the salary of the employee, and we say that we will add the salary raise to it, so plus the raise that is coming in. Good. And that is what is going to be the total salary, and it will be updated by the update salary function. Good. Now after that, we will print a message to let us know that everything has been successful. Okay, so we'll bring in our print f, then we will say that that particular employee has been promoted to this position to this position. Great. Let's bring in our exclamation to say that that particular employee has been promoted to the position. Okay, and bring our new line over here. All right, then close it. Then the first value, which is the s over here, is the name of the employee. So we will bring our e dot name, then we will bring in the position, the new position, which will be the e dot position. Good. Now I think we are good to go. Great. Now in our main function we are done. Let's lastly display the updated employees. Display the updated employees after the promotion. Updated employee list. Okay. So to display the updated employee list, you bring in our headline and say that below is, we do a print line, and we say that the below in a new line that this is after the update. So the list after the update. Now we go ahead and print them. So you do the EMS dot. Then we will now list the employees, and we have that function already. Good. Now we are good to go. Let's print or run our program on the console to see what we have. Good. So we have it over here. Exactly. So initially we added Mark Smith and we added Jane White, and this is the list that we had. Employee ID 1, Mark Smith, the software engineer, $60,000. Then the employee with ID 2, Jane White, who is a project manager. Now we updated the salary for Mark Smith to 65,000. We have it over here. And now we updated the salary for Mark Smith to $75,000. And Mark Smith has been promoted to senior software engineer. We have the promotion over here. And after the update, we have the new list, the updated list over here, that Mark Smith is now a senior software engineer with a salary of 75,000, because we increased the salary to 65,000, and because of the salary raise plus the 10,000, it was now 75,000. So that is what we have over here, 75,000. Then Jane White also data is over here. So thank you very much for watching this video tutorial. If you like this project, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment on the comment section if you have any question or any project you want us to um, teach or build. The full code for this project will be available with a link in the video description below, so you can download it. Thank you very much. See you in the next project or in the next video tutorial. Bye bye.